What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for an international roundup. As you know, Euro 2024 and the Copa are going on at the moment. We have reached the conclusion of the groups in the Euros, so we thought it was what better time than to give you an international roundup and see how Spurs players are doing out for their respective countries. There's been some players that are really performing at the top of their game out there at the Euros. We'll touch on the players at the Copa that are going through the second round of group phase games at the moment. But let's start off with, in my opinion, well, one of the definitely the better players that Spurs have performing out in the Euros, which is Radu Dragusin from Romania. We know Romania topped their group, which was quite unbelievable for them. But let's go and have a look at how Radu Dragusin is performing. He's played 3 games, 90 minutes. And obviously the first game was brilliant from him, wasn't it? It had everyone talking about him. 3-0 win against Ukraine, which really set Romania on their way. If we go in and have a look at his individual stats from this game, you can just see what an aggressive defender he was on the day. Playing 90 minutes, 10 clearances, 2 block shots, 1 interception, 33 touches on the day, 1 out of 1 ground duel, 2 out of 2 aerial duels. So a very dominant performance from Radu Dragusin in that game. I mean, we were doing a watch along for it, and we were both blown away about how good he was.
He was monstrous. He was so commanding, and it was like a one-man wall at times with Dragusin just stopping everything that came his way. Absolutely brilliant. And his performances at the Euros have struck an interesting conversation among Spurs fans because he's performing so well at the moment. And even I've seen so far a few team in the tournament so far, and he's in quite a few of them. I've seen from not just Tottenham fans, from a lot of various people. And I'm seeing a lot of Tottenham fans saying, with what they're seeing from Radu at the moment, Tottenham have to move to a back three next season with how he's performing. Do we have to find a way of fitting him in? Because if that's the level of performance that we should be expect from Radu, is he too good to leave out? That is a big question mark among Spurs fans at the moment, because he's performing brilliantly for Romania and obviously one of the underdogs in the tournament, and he's been one of the shining lights as defenders go.
Yeah, in the second game he played against Belgium, which was 2-0 loss. In the first game, by the way, it was a 7.6 rating here by SofaScore. The second game it was a 6.7 rating. I thought, like, for the most part, he did quite well up against Romelu Lukaku, but it wasn't as strong of a display as it was in that first game. In this game, obviously 90 minutes played, 7 clearances, 1 interception, 1 time he was dribbled past, 2 successful ground duels out of 3, 1 successful aerial duel out of 4. He was fouled twice. He actually got a couple of shots off in the game as well, and 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target, and a shot blocked as well. So still a good game, but maybe not as dominant as it was in his first.
Yeah. Obviously Belgium, they're massive underdogs, and to be fair, the goals they conceded, I remember one of them was Tielemans, who was outside the box. This was one of those that it was a good strike from 25 yards, and then they got caught out late on from De Bruyne when they're chasing the game, but wasn't as good. But I thought he actually dealt with Lukaku pretty well throughout the game, for most of it.
Look at the heat map though for his game against Belgium. He is just like all over the park, literally.
Brilliant, absolutely everywhere, and that's his capability. I think we've seen also a side of him on the ball, a bit more composure as well. Obviously, Romania aren't the most possession-based team, but I think he's doing quite well on the ball as well. Yeah,
and Ange Postecoglou was in the press box for this game, wasn't he? Talking about Radu, and he said that he absolutely loves him. He's a defender that absolutely loves defending, but takes risks on the ball and quite confident on the ball as well. So great to hear that from Big Ange, who's actually left him out quite a lot this season.
Yeah, which is understandable because we've got 2 defenders in Van der Ven and Romero. It's hard to leave one of those out, but we did get a little run at the end of the season, didn't he? A few games, was it just a couple of games, or 2 or 3 games at the end of the season? And I thought he performed really, really well in those games. So with Van der Ven at left back, so maybe it's a view of maybe what we'll see next season a bit more.
And then in the final game of the group was 1-1 against Slovenia, sorry, and he played 90 minutes in that game. You just look at the heat map there. Oh, sorry, it is Slovakia. That's the heat map there for Radu. So again, very aggressive, getting high up the pitch. This time, a few less clearances, 5 clearances, 1 block shot, 47 touches, 2 out of his 9 long balls were successful. 1 out of his 2 ground duels. No aerial duels contested. 1 foul, fouled once, and 8 times he lost possession. So probably, maybe you would say, maybe his poorest game in the last game.
Well, there was definitely there was one moment where there was a throw that came in and it was falling to Radu. In fact, it was going to go through to the goalkeeper, but Radu kind of panicked. He swiped at it, and it ended up going behind him, up in the air, and it nearly led to a chance for Slovakia. If they would have scored that, Romania would have been out. So it's a bit of a scary moment, but I still thought he played pretty well despite that moment. You got to remember, he's still quite young. He's still 22. You look at him, he doesn't look like a 22-year-old, does he?
No, he's not someone that you want to meet in a dark alley. I tell you that. Good player to have on your side, I would say. But yeah, look, as much as maybe the third game wasn't as strong as maybe the first 2, or definitely the first 1. I think it's been a very good tournament from Radu so far, and congratulations to him and Romania, who've beaten the odds and qualified for the next round as group winners. Crazy.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. And he's been, as I say, a lot of people have put him in their team of the tournament so far. That goes to show how highly regarded his performances have been by casual football watchers at the moment. So he's doing a great job.
And who have they got in the next round, Romania?
Who do Romania have in the next round? I don't know. I don't remember the round of 16. I think Euros. I'll find it. I don't know. 2024.
Because if they're top of the group, then they should get maybe a more favourable fixture. Who have they got? Netherlands. Wow, that's a very tough fixture.
Versus Dragusin.
Very tough fixture for them. So we'll have to wait and see how they get on in the next round. But let's talk about Pierre Hojbjerg now, another player who's played every minute so far for his country. 3 draws for Denmark, so maybe not what they would have hoped, but I think he got 1 man of the match display against England in the second game. In the first game, 1-1 draw with Slovenia. Still had a fairly good game. If you bring up his numbers here, he got taken off actually in the 84th minute. 0.07 expected goals, 0.06 expected assists, 98 touches, 79 out of 86 accurate passes, 3 out of his 5 long balls were completed, 3 out of his 5 ground duels, no aerial duels contested, 9 times lost possession, 1 foul, 2 times was fouled, 1 clearance, 1 tackle, 1 time dribble pass. Look, fairly good display from him, 7.3 rated on SofaScore, but he's definitely been one of Denmark's better performances in this tournament.
Yeah, and he's got a really good partnership with Hillman going as well, and they've got a really solid double pivot behind. Obviously, there's a front 2 with Denmark, and Denmark have been very, very tough to play against, despite not winning a game yet. You can see how they approach games. It's very intense, a lot of pressing, and Hojbjerg's perfect at that, and I think he's really fitting their system perfectly, and I think he's been dominant in central midfield so far. I've been really impressed with Hojbjerg, and it's not the first time at international tournament we've said that with him.
Yeah, but usually there are some goal contributions to go with it, not this time round, but maybe in the next round. If you look at that heat map, that is just what you associate Pierre Hojbjerg with. Look at that heat map, just
everywhere.
Reds all over the pitch is what you love to see from him. Let's look at his stats from the game against England, because he was absolutely astonishing in this game, and that you see even deeper reds on his heat map here. He was all over the park. He showed up the England midfielders pretty much for the majority of the game. I thought he was scintillating, got the man of the match award, and quite rightly so. 108 touches during the game, 0.12 expected goals, 0.06 expected assists, 3 out of his 5 long balls accurate, 4 shots on target in the game, 1 off target, 2 dribble attempts, 0 was completed. 7 out of his 15 ground duels were successful. 2 out of his 2 aerial duels were successful. 13 times possession lost. 2 fouls. 1 time was fouled. 2 clearances. 3 interceptions. 6 tackles. But he was dribbled past 3 times. But an exceptional performance this was from Pierre Hojbjerg.
It was an all-action display, and it's no surprise as well that Declan Rice's worst game was in this game as well, where he was literally continually harried and hassled by Hojbjerg and Hillman, especially Hojbjerg, though. He was getting in their faces, and not only that, when he got into the final third, he wasn't scared to take a shot. He forced Pickford into a few saves, and he literally covered every blade of grass. He was absolutely imperious in that middle of the park. They just couldn't handle Hojbjerg, and he was a big reason why England struggled big time in that game.
Yeah, and I felt early on especially he was so aggressive up against the likes of like Jude Bellingham and most of the England midfielders couldn't really handle him. That was the honest truth. So it was Denmark. I would say Denmark probably deserved all 3 points on the day.
Probably, yeah, they were the better team, and Hojbjerg was their best player.
Yeah. Let's look at his last game, a 0-0 draw with Serbia. He played 90 minutes in the game. If you look at that heat map, maybe not as impressive as the first 2 games, but still impressive nonetheless. All action and getting in every area of pitch. 71 touches, 1 key pass, 0 successful crosses out of 2, 3 successful long balls out of 5. 1 ground duel, 1 out of his 3, 0 aerial duels out of his 1, 9 times possession lost, 1 foul, 1 clearance, 1 tackle. I think Denmark probably would have expected more in this game, especially as they did draw the first 2 games, and on the back of that really impressive performance against England where they didn't get maybe what they deserved. They probably expected to win this game, but luckily enough they did go through as second because of bookings.
Yeah, which is crazy. But I get the feeling that maybe they felt going into this game that a draw might have been good enough, so they decided to kind of make sure that they didn't lose the game, which is why Hojbjerg wasn't getting in as many advanced positions as he was in the previous games. It was much more of a defensive display in this one, I felt, than in the other games. I thought he still played really well. Slovenia, was Slovenia the last game for them? No, it was Serbia, sorry. Serbia were quite limited. I thought Denmark defended really well, and Hojbjerg was a big part of that, but I don't think it was as much as the all-action displays as it was in the previous games.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So, again, I'll probably say who's been... Because these 2 are our best performers so far at the Euros, obviously.
Another player who I've seen people put in their team of the tournament so far.
Who would you say has had a better tournament so far, Hojbjerg or Radu?
Probably Hojbjerg.
Yeah, I'd agree. Let's look at Mickey van der Ven. Hasn't had that many minutes, has taken part in 2 games so far for the Netherlands, and just limited to a few minutes at the end, really. First game and the second game.
Left back as well.
Yeah, so the first game against Poland, he came on to see out the game. I think it was actually, was it 1-1 when he came on as well? So maybe he had his part in grabbing the win, but not much in it. He came on 87th minute to go, quite a few minutes of stoppage time there, 1 clearance, 3. He only got his 3 touches, and apart from that, no real stats. Did you watch this game?
Yeah, and I thought, obviously, it was only a short amount of time he was on, but he accomplished himself pretty well. Obviously, playing at left back in those last few games for Tottenham, I think that's where Koeman sees him at the moment. I don't know if that's the best place for him, but that's what Koeman has used him. And I thought in the other game against Austria, he came on, I think the game was 1-1 when he came on against Austria.
He came on the 65th minute, and at that time in the game, it was 2-1 to Austria.
And so then they go back to 2-2, and then Austria made it 3-2.
Yeah, because Netherlands got it back, and we were like, the Mickey van der Ven effect, but then they lost the game. So
I thought he played pretty well, though. I don't think it was actually the goal, if I remember, was down the other side, if I remember rightly. I feel like Netherlands in that have actually been fairly open, and maybe they could use a bit of van der Ven going forward in the knockout stages. They're still playing a 35-year-old De Vrij, and maybe if they shifted Van Dijk over, put Ake next to him and put Van der Ven left back, or even kept Ake there and put Van der Ven next to Van Dijk, that might be a better option for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, so he did get 25 minutes in the last game. This was his heat map for the game in the last game against Austria. He was dribbled past once, 32 touches in those 25 minutes, 0 out of 2 long balls accurate, 2 ground duels out of his 4, 0 aerial duels out of his 7, lost possession 7 times, was fouled once, and he attempted 2 dribbles, and one of them was successful. So not the greatest stats from Mickey, but I did feel like when he did get on the ball, he did look dangerous. Yeah,
and they struck there. I felt like when he was getting down that side, he put in some decent deliveries as well when he got the opportunity to, but unfortunately, Netherlands succumbed to a defeat. It didn't affect them. They still finished third and got through, but wasn't the best display overall from the Netherlands.
Yeah. Let's move on to Vicario. Obviously, he hasn't played any minutes because he is Italy's backup keeper. Italy have gone through, obviously, with a 2-1 win against Albania, 1-0 loss against Spain, and a 1-1 draw with Croatia in the last game. But let's go and focus on the Copa America now, and let's look at Cuti Romero, because he's as well one of another Tottenham player that's got a man of the match display in their international tournaments. He's played 2 games so far in the Copa, 2-0 win against Canada. Let's go and have a look at his stats and his heat map. So look at this heat map from Cuti Romero. Just classic Cuti, isn't it? Look at that deep red all the way up till the halfway line and even advancing onto the other half as well. 3 clearances, 2 interceptions, 6 tackles, 109 touches, 91 out of his 93 passes were accurate. 6 out of his 7 long balls were accurate. 6 out of his 6 ground duels were won. 0 out of 2 aerial duels won. 2 times possession lost. And that is a mammoth display from Cuti Romero.
He was phenomenal. I was watching parts of this game, all those early hours of the morning, and he was just so good, Romero, honestly, on the ball. As good as you like. I think they've played 2 games, haven't they? They haven't conceded a goal yet, and he's just been phenomenal and carrying on his incredible form for Argentina off the back of that World Cup win.
Yeah. On SofaScore, he's actually the highest rated player on the Argentina team under Lionel Messi. Messi got 8.5 and Romero and McAllister tied in second on 7.7. So that tells you where they rate him. If you look at the Chile game, a 1-0 win where Lautaro Martinez scored late on for Argentina in a well-deserved victory. Cuti Romero got man of the match in this game. And if you look at his heat map for this one, very similar, but even further up the pitch in this game.
Yeah, a lot of possession in the opposition half, and we know that he likes to step into midfield. We know he's good on the ball, and that proves it again when he's doing it for Argentina.
Yep, 90 minutes played, 0.12 expected goals, 3 clearances, 2 interceptions, 8 tackles. 59 out of his 73 passes were accurate, so a lot less in terms of the pass completion than the last game. 0 crosses, 0 long balls were accurate out of 2. 8 out of his 10 ground duels were won. 4 out of his 5 aerial duels were won. He lost possession 15 times. He fouled twice and 1 shot off target on the day. An imperious, so 2 imperious displays from Cuti Romero in an Argentina shirt in this Copa.
Yeah, and there's some individual highlights going around of him, compilation of his 2 performances at the tournament so far, and I think they're well worth a look because he's been absolutely brilliant. And, you know, he's just one of those defenders who is exciting to watch. It's very rare for a defender to be like that, and Romero definitely fits that category.
Moving on to Giovanni Lo Celso, he came on in both games, so it's just a substitute in both games. This is his heat map in the first game where he got, 20 minutes or 25 minutes in the game. There you go, 22 minutes, 0.05 expected goals, 18 touches, 10 out of 11 passes accurate, 0 crosses and 0 long balls accurate, 1 shot blocked, 1 out of 1 dribble attempted and being successful, 3 ground duels out of 5, 4 times possession lost, 1 time fouled, 1 fouls as well, and he did 1 tackle. So not really much to read in Giovanni Lo Celso's first cameo. In his second cameo, let's see what he did. Where's Giovanni Lo Celso? Can you see him? Oh, there you go. He came on the 65th minute for Enzo Fernandez. A bit better in terms of the heat map. You can see him putting himself about a bit more in different areas of the pitch. 26 minutes played, 0.43 expected goals. So he had some chances. 24 touches, 13 out of his 16 passes were accurate. 0 out of 2 crosses, 0 out of 1 long balls, 1 shot on target, 1 dribble attempt which was not successful, 1 big chance missed. 2 out of his 3 ground duels were won, 7 times possession lost and 2 tackles. So big chance missed for Gio, but at least he got in and amongst it in this one.
Yeah, obviously I didn't see it, so I can't really say how big that chance was, but all I can say is I know Lo Celso in previous tournaments has been quite a big player for them. I know he missed the World Cup, but in the Copa he was quite a big player for them. But obviously with McAllister now established, DePaul obviously a big player, Enzo now starting, it's hard for him to get into the team, but we'll see later in the tournament whether he does get any starts or not, because I think he's very, very trusted by the Argentinian national team and Scaloni as well.
And last but not least, we're going to look at Rodrigo Bentancur, who was on the bench for Uruguay's first game. I think they are playing tonight, tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. English time. But he was out of favour to the likes of Federico Valverde and Manuel Ugarte. And he came on for the last 5 minutes, and this is what he did. There was 5 minutes added on, so he did get a total of 10 minutes, 0.03 expected goals, 7 touches, 4 out of 5 accurate passes, didn't win his ground duel, 1 contested, possession lost 1, 1 foul, 1 clearance, 1 interception. So again, not really much to read out of that.
Yeah, but it'd be disappointing for Bentancur because you go back to the World Cup. I thought he was brilliant for Uruguay at that World Cup, and he really took that Tottenham form into the national stage. And I thought he was one of the best midfielders that World Cup before they went out. I really thought he was sensational. I remember that one game against Portugal, he did so well. So obviously after that injury, to now find himself, he's recovered from it, but he now finds himself out of the team. Must be a bit frustrating for him, but hopefully he gets some meaningful game time, because we know Bielsa really likes him. He said he's one of the few midfielders who gives you brilliant on the ball and off the ball ability, and he really rates him. So hopefully he can find his way back in the team, but it must be hard for him at the moment.
Yeah, when you're looking at that double pivot of Valverde and Ugarte, I mean, it's going to be very hard to break into that midfield. 2 top quality midfielders, but Bentancur obviously in his own right is a top quality midfielder as well. So I back him to do it. I think he'll get game time from now until the end of the tournament, and Uruguay are one of the favourites to go all the way this year, and definitely I would say a dark horse, because, you know, the likes of Argentina and Brazil are always going to be the 2 favourites going into it. So I would say Uruguay have a very good shout of going all the way. So that is your international roundup. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the Spurs international players at the Copa and at the Euros. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.